One. As you on to
Hey,
Hey everybody.
Hi.
what's happening?
We are back for another episode of the Conscious Disruptors podcast. We took a little bit of a break, but we are back, and we have a guest today. We'll get to Oklahoma County Commissioner Blumert here in a second. So, Commissioner, this is what we typically do. We always start off with something positive that we would like to share before we get into the business of things. So, like I always do, since the gentleman that I am, I let the ladies go first. So I'll let my co-host, Miss Tanasha, Auntie TT. Hey, look, don't start. I gotta say it. That's what we do. Just roll with it. Tell us something positive that she has, that you've either experienced, maybe the last couple of weeks for yourself personally, or something positive that you've seen out in the community that impacted you that you'd like to share.
Okay, listen, I would not be a good co-host if I did not at least attempt to ask our guest if she would like to start this. If not, I'm happy to go first.
You go
Got
first.
some-
I want to hear what you have to say.
She got some manners sometimes, y'all. She got some manners.
Oh, really? This is how you're doing it? Okay. So wow, so many things have happened. And it's all about me, and it's not about being selfish, but it is what it is. I have learned that things come in the right time. I think we all know that, right? I mean, just you be looking for something, looking forward to something great happening, and you're working and working and working, and you're wondering how much longer, how much time do I have to put into this to make things go? And over the past, I'll just say in the past 2 weeks for myself, my phone has been ringing. People have been inquiring. And I apparently am known in spaces. Look, Apollo, known in spaces that I didn't even know about, right? Like, so that is the best feeling. And if you haven't experienced it, I hope that for you, whomever is watching, including, of course, the two aren't here with me. But that's my great news. Like, it's a uplifting feeling to know that people are thinking about you, watching you when I just do what I do. And so for a person that I respect to let me know that they're fangirling over me, what? I feel good. So that's my goodness for today. And I hope that, that's helped inspire somebody else to let them know. Remain vigilant and persistent in your pursuits and just do what you do. And somebody's watching. I tell you, they're going to come for you in a good way.
Good job of starting off the newest episode with talking about yourself. I appreciate it.
I did a good job of that, right?
Commissioner Blumert, we'll let you go next.
Okay, since I am living in campaign world right now, it is going to be about the campaign.
Okay.
I hired a couple people last year to help me put this campaign together, and we worked our butts off for 6 months. And really, in the last probably month, it has felt like everything is falling into place. The people that we need are showing up and putting in the work. And it kind of feels like kind of what you said, Tanasha, of you're putting all this effort in and things are finally starting to fall into place. And that's a really good feeling with, like 3 weeks left to this thing. Or I guess hopefully on to November, but 3 weeks left until August 23rd. Mm-hmm. And it feels like we're gaining momentum. And as a candidate, you put in all this effort for so long that people don't see. And then at the end, it all kind of comes together. So I felt really encouraged the last couple of weeks.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. See, when you're persistent in things, the harvest comes when you don't expect it.
Yeah.
Okay. What about mine?
I'm
not going to talk about myself like Tanasha did.
Not this time.
Not this time. So here's what I've noticed. I've noticed that how our city is changing. I think some of that is likely due to the COVID pandemic. People leaving, their respective states or folks coming back to the state, and you're seeing the influence of their experiences in different neighborhoods, and starting to see. Actually, what I'm enjoying seeing more younger people out and active. See more folks out in the streets, or just jogging or walking, or just exploring. And I'm really excited to see how we're still talking about millennials, start to see those young professionals out and about and own and take up spaces. So that's exciting to see. As a Gen Z, you're getting to see more people coming, because it's that sign of the next generation is coming. Because I don't know about y'all, but I'm getting tired. Okay, but it's exciting. To see that happen, right?
He just got on his second leg,
right? So that's something exciting that I've noticed. I'm really excited to see. And so now we kind of shift over to the things that we see around the country. There's a lot of stuff that happens, and Oklahoma ends up in conversations on Twitter a lot. Some good, some not so good. So, so just for those of you who are new to our podcast, the Conscious Disruptors podcast, the things that we talk about on this podcast are geared toward the impact of business enterprise, healthcare, and public service, civic service in the Black community across the state. So our topic of conversation is geared in that way. So first question for you, Commissioner Blumert. What has been a surprise for you, being now you completed your first full term as County Commissioner of District 1. What has been the most surprising thing? Well, not the most surprising. What are some things you didn't know that you learned as being the Commissioner of District 1 in Oklahoma County?
Ooh, good question. So when I'm out talking to voters, when I'm out knocking doors, and right now I'm campaigning, and so I'm out talking to voters a lot more, I'm always surprised at how often people say an elected official or a candidate has never come to my door. I've never met or talked to one of my elected officials. And oh, by the way, I have no idea what you do, what a county commissioner does, which is fine. Yeah. I'm there to help, to educate them and to talk with them and to hear their stories. So that has always surprised me. And it, it makes me a little sad, but then it's also an opportunity to say, well, I'm here at your door reaching out to you. I want you to get involved. It's no coincidence that I'm here at your door. So that always surprises me. Something I've learned is and this is a pretty broad statement. Most folks don't have a lot of trust in their government. The government has failed them in some way, whether it's a small way or a big way. So when I can use the resources that I have access to, when I can use my authority as their commissioner to help them in some way, whether it's really small, like connecting them to the right phone number, or whether it's paving the road in front of their school, to like bit by bit restore someone's faith in government helping them, that, I knew going into this whole thing as being commissioner that people had a bad taste in their mouth towards government. But until you hear people yelling and screaming on the phone at you, you don't actually get it. So it's actually getting to, like, in little steps, restore people's faith in their elected officials and in what government can do for them. Now, I'm going to mess up. The government is not perfect. We're going to fail people. But my hope is that we can get enough good people in office where we are slowly restoring people's faith and we're doing right by them.
So you mentioned something. I'm so glad you said that. So what does for those who don't understand, because I hear a lot of overlap when I go to community meetings or town halls, et cetera, and there's this confusion between what someone's supposed to do. And sometimes you hear, here Oklahoma County, it gets confused with a municipality and things overlap. So for the people listening today and those watching after this, what is a county commissioner responsible for? What is their jurisdiction?
I would be happy to answer that. So in every single county in Oklahoma, so we have 77 counties, there are 3 county commissioners, no matter how big or small your county is. That's in state statute. So I represent almost 300,000 people, whereas a rural county commissioner may represent 4,000 people. So we oversee how a portion of your property taxes are spent. So whether you pay rent or you pay a mortgage, you pay into your property taxes, what we also call ad valorem. Mm-hmm. Those property taxes pay for public schools, the library system, the local health department, your technology centers like MetroTech, your county government. And did I miss something? Libraries, tech centers, health department, schools, and county government. So a portion of those property taxes pay for county government. County government oversees your local county jail, your county courthouse, your rural roads and bridges, and then roads and bridges inside cities less than 5,000 people. So for example, Spencer, they are, I think Spencer, I looked it up the other day, I think it's maybe around 3,000 people. So we partner with Spencer to do most of their road and bridge construction. So roads and bridges, your county jail, your county courthouse, the sheriff's department. We at Oklahoma County have a social services department where we provide services to our homeless population. We have 2 free pharmacies. We have an indigent burial program where if someone in your family passes away and you do not have any means to bury them or cremate them, we will pay for that. We have 2 staff members embedded within the Homeless Alliance. We pay for 7 beds at Cardinal House for people who would otherwise be going back to homelessness, who are recovering from some type of illness. They've gotten out of the hospital and they have nowhere else to go. So there's kind of your bigger things with county government, like your roads and bridges, your jail, and your courthouse. And then the larger your county is and the more resources you have, you can do things like the social services department and other things like that.
So there's a distinction between county operations and county obligations versus, for example, the city of Oklahoma City or the city of Spencer and those roles as it relates to, for example, things like maps. So the county commissioners are not responsible nor oversee city issues such as maps, for example, is a city issue.
Correct. Now, I probably confused a lot of people because I was very involved in MAPS 4. I was involved in MAPS 4 because the mayor and I had Mayor Holt and I had a conversation about, let's make sure there's things in MAPS 4 that address mental health and addiction. And he said, would you kind of lead the charge on this and make sure that we have the right things in this package? So I went and did the presentation and talked to all the partners and put the proposal together. But once the proposal got included in MAPS 4, I wish I had authority over that money, but I don't. That's up to the Citizens Advisory Board. That's up to Oklahoma City Council. So I was just kind of the advocate that made sure it got in there.
Okay.
And then the process goes through what it needs to do with the city.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So Tanasha, I see you over there looking down, and I know when you have that research face and question face on. So I know you got some questions. So let me throw the light.
Honestly, I'm enjoying her answers and just thinking about because of what I do on a daily, that constituent work is like hard work, right? But it's very fulfilling work. I did want to. Not necessarily a question. This is really from how you were answering, Commissioner Blumert, the restoring faith in government. I think that's a major statement, right? And honestly, for me, I just want to know if you would agree that we are really saying we're restoring faith in the people, because it's the people who we elect, the people who work there, who get hired, and we expect for them to come in and do a good job for us. And when Expectations. A friend of mine recently said we want to manage expectations. Well, it's difficult to do, right? Like
Yeah.
when the people expect for a particular office to deliver in such a magnanimous way. I can't even say the word, just hugely.
Wasn't
And
that like a sound effect when you said like the word of the day, like on like
yeah, you needed that at that moment. Yeah, because
I definitely would have done that for that moment.
But yeah, so I enjoyed listening to that particular response and would like to know if this, a question at all. When you're talking to your constituent base, how they receive that. When you say restoring, do you say it like that? We want to restore your faith in government. How do they receive that? What type of responses do you get?
Most people agree that they have a distrust of either their elected officials or the entire system in general. And a lot of folks can point to a specific experience they had. So when I'm not out knocking on doors, I'm always surprised at how much people divulge to me about their personal lives and about what they don't like about the government. And I don't mind listening to those stories because it helps educate me on where we've messed up.
Yeah.
And our county jail is a perfect example. We messed up big time.
Yeah.
Big time. And now that we've gone back to the voters and said, we're going to try to fix this and make it right, the narrative over the last couple months when it was on the ballot in June was I heard this a lot at neighborhood association meetings and out speaking to Rotaries and all that kind of stuff. People said, how are you all going to make sure that you don't mess it up again?
Managing expectations.
Yes. And I would tell them, here is how it's different this time. Here are the, what's the word? Here are the things we're putting in place to make it a more transparent and equitable process. Here is how the law is different than it was 30 years ago. The laws around purchasing and hiring folks. And so I would say sometimes when I'm going back to your question, sometimes people are relieved that I kind of call it out and say, I know you all have a hard time trusting the government and elected officials. I hear you. We have messed up in the past, but I'm here, I'm listening to you. We're trying to learn from our mistakes. So I think sometimes people feel a little relieved, like, okay, she's calling out the elephant in the room.
Good. It's that level of transparency that everybody talks about, but they don't necessarily even know how to see. So I think that that's what you're giving her. I can appreciate that about you. I feel like that's one of the things that we miss. I do want to know one more thing. You said 300,000 people.
Yeah.
That's a lot. You're not pleasing two of them, okay? Like, you can't ever get it right.
So I Googled, the population of Oklahoma County is like 790,000 people.
I think it's now like close to 900,000.
It's probably over than that.
I thought it was, hold on, let me look this up.
Look at it. Everybody's like, wait a minute.
Everybody Google. It said.
Google is not always our friend.
It really isn't. For 2020, it showed 794 of a population for Oklahoma County.
Well, as you all look those up, I just wanted to, the reason I was thinking about that is there one particular area that's more involved, you think, than another? Like you brought up Spencer, which is a lot less populated than, of course, Oklahoma City. Like, is there one area that you find there's more constituent related calls, or just do they come to your office like they do us?
Not the way they do at the Capitol.
Okay.
We do have folks come to county commission meetings and to budget meetings, and then of course to jail trust meetings. Okay. But I would definitely say that folks from Northeast Oklahoma City are contacting our office the most, or contacting me. Now, there's also a lot of people from Central Oklahoma City, like the core of the city, that we hear from a lot. But communities like Del City and Midwest City, which are part of my district, we don't hear from them very often because I think those those constituents turn to their city government a lot more than thinking of calling their county commissioner. Like Midwest City is a pretty large city government. They have a large staff, and they offer a lot of services, and their budget is pretty big. So we don't hear a lot from residents in Midwest City because I think they're contacting their city more often.
Is that potentially due to the relationship with Tinker?
Yes, maybe. Tinker is, I'm actually going on base at Tinker tomorrow. So I try to be out there as much as I can. And then I really like the mayor of Midwest City. He is a very good, fair, kind. He's not over political. He just loves Midwest City. He loves Tinker Air Force Base. He's a very good mayor.
So I want to dive into some business questions. I love talking about businesses, as you know, strong advocate for Black-owned businesses in the state. And as you were talking about when you go and knocking on doors, what I appreciate about what you do is that you acknowledge what a person's feedback. So if they say there's something wrong, and it's not because you are an elected, just getting to know you, that's just who you are. Let me hear what you're saying, let me acknowledge what you're saying, and not give you an excuse, but figure out what can we do in what you can do in your capacity to help. So that goes back to when we started talking about the impact of the COVID pandemic on Black-owned businesses. And I think everybody was trying to figure out what was going on, from PPP to funding to grants. It was all over the board. Folks were scrambling. And so I called you and I was like, hey, I'm not hearing anything about the impact on Black-owned businesses in the conversation. And what I appreciated about, what you did was you heard me. And then we started working on how can we then tailor, because in District 1, there's a large African-American population, and there's also a large Black-owned business entrepreneurship population there too. And so from that, we were talking about the minority supplier type initiatives that wanted to institute. So could you talk to us and the audience a bit about how that experience was for you, and then what can we do to support getting a minority supplier initiative in the county that supports not just Black-owned business, but minority businesses for those contract opportunities to increase our tax base, sales tax base of the county?
Yes. So in Oklahoma County government, we have to abide by purchasing procedures, is what we call them. They are laws within state statute that govern how we hire contractors or how we hire folks to come do work for us. Now, when we're receiving federal money, we have to abide by a different set of procedures, a different set of purchasing guidelines. And there is some rules within federal money that you have to solicit a certain number of minority-owned and female-owned bids when you're putting out an RFP or an RFQ, which stands for request for proposal or request for qualifications. Can you hear my dogs?
Hey.
The dog has supported this. Yeah, we hear you in the background.
Taco, go back to your nap. Go back to your morning nap. So there was nothing in state statute for county purchasing procedures that said you have to solicit or go out and get a certain number of minority-owned business proposals or bids. And so I think that's when you and I started working together of, can we make this part of county purchasing procedures, or can we make an Oklahoma County specific minority-owned business purchasing program? And we kind of talked through some options, and we talked with our purchasing director, Chantel, who was very on board, but of course she has to follow all the rules. So she was asking all the questions about how is this going to fit into what we do? And it came down to it that there really was no state statute that gave the county the authority to have that type of program. And this is when having, a million state statutes, it can get annoying. It can become like a bottleneck. Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
And so what I would love to do is work with a state legislator or a senator like George Young, which Shanasha can probably help us with that, get some tweaks made to those statutes to give the county authority to create a minority-owned business program. And so that's something that, I have to collaborate with our city governments a lot. I have to collaborate with the federal government, but it's very important to have those relationships with state legislators and state senators, because we need to update and change state statutes sometimes to make our job more efficient, or to make our job easier, or to serve people better. And that's an example of, we got to get those statutes changed so that the county can have a minority-owned business purchasing program.
Yeah,
and then during 2020, with our CARES money that we received, we were able, at the very end of 2020, to offer around $20 million in small business assistance to small businesses and nonprofits outside of Oklahoma City. So Spencer, Jones, Forest Park, Del City, Midwest City, all those communities outside of the city, but within the county. And we were able to help 300 small businesses. And I need to go back and look and see if we can pull how many of those businesses were minority owned or women owned. Because we were just trying to get the money out as fast as we could. And we had about a month to do it. And 300 folks received money from us. But we didn't put anything in there I don't think we put anything in there that asked folks if they were a minority owned business or not. And we used the Alliance for Economic Development to help us run that program. So I would love to see us do that again with the money that we have, the COVID money that we have now. And we would probably work with the Alliance again on that.
You definitely know I'm in support of helping with that effort again. And I'm glad you brought clarity to that, because I think to not understand as voters what authority you have, because your authority is you're following state statute, which there are some differences in how someone who's on city council and what they are obligated to. Some of theirs are, maybe it's the charter, maybe there is some state in there or county, but in terms of what your role is. So if it's not something that you are given authority to do, we as voters have to rally behind and make sure that those, by our votes, things change to give the authority to do so. Because sometimes it's stuff based on interpretation, but we're not going to go on with it.
Yes.
Some of those misinterpretations.
And Councilwoman Nice and I try to work together pretty regularly, because there are things that she has the authority to do, or the money to the resources to address. And there are some things that I have resources to address. Sometimes those things overlap and sometimes they don't.
Right.
And so she and I try to stay in pretty close contact, because we're serving the same constituents.
Right. Exactly.
So I just want to, you brought up, working together, and listen, government to people is one big fat blop in the sea of what we do. But it's so many variations to it that you just described a bit. And just like, you said, working with Senator Young on a couple of things. The thing is how you actually make this happen. How do you explain to individuals, this is my part of making this particular piece work? We know that state statutes aren't changed in county statutes aren't changed in the state government. And then how do you propose to make people, understand? And this is something, that I deal with on a daily basis. People call and I'll say, I'm happy to help you, of course, but this is you're probably going to get more out of this situation if I help you, align you with the commissioner's office or the council's office. And so just making people understand that these relationships cross-sectionally are important. Oftentimes when we vote, we are looking for the person, right? Like, we're looking to that individual to see how they match what their experiences are. Hopefully people are looking at that, or some people just, that's my friend, I've been knowing him for years, I'm gonna vote for him, that type of thing. But having those relationships cross-sectionally in the government so that we can help each other. And I know that Senator Young has run different pieces before Senator Young became senator and he was a House rep. We were even then doing economic development types of pieces of legislation, and the importance that I say to so many people is that when you say get behind them, what Apollo said, the people have to get behind. I don't think really, Commissioner Blumert, that they understand what that looks like. So, from your perspective, in what you do, what would you suggest? How would you suggest to the people that they get behind you to support something like this? So, let's give an actual scenario that you and Senator Young actually came together and said, okay, we're going to propose a piece of legislation to make some amendments to statute 103.5, whatever, section B, make it all up. So first, of course, the people don't even know what that is, but what would you do? How would you get them to know, hey, we need you guys behind us, and what type of behind us? What does it look like?
Yeah. I will agree that most people see government as just one big entity. And I do not blame people for that at all. It's very confusing of what my authority is, what my job is, what Senator Young's authority is, what his job is. It's confusing to people. Mm-hmm. I think we probably need some better civics education in schools, which I know some people who are working to address that. I'll give a good example of this situation. Last night, I was at a fundraiser and I had someone raise his hand, and he said he owns a lot of property downtown and he works downtown. And he said, I have noticed over the last few years that the number of people experiencing homelessness around downtown has increased. Mm-hmm. And the amount of whether those people are breaking into buildings or trying to sleep inside buildings, he said, I have seen it go up. And he goes, what can you do to address this? Well, ironically, the day before, I had gotten an email from the city of Oklahoma City talking through what is our winter shelter situation like. I know it's July and it's 110 degrees.
Coming.
But it's coming, right? And we got to keep people alive this winter. What are we going to do? We got to talk about it now. Mm-hmm. So I forwarded the email on to some of my staff, and I said, what authority does the county have to assist with winter shelter? Because there are statutes that say the county can help with people experiencing homelessness. Mm-hmm. And so what I want to do is figure out what statutes give us authority to, whether it's partner with the city with money or partner with the city with personnel, maybe staffing those shelters or whatever it looks like. And so that's an example of really the city is kind of taking charge on that. And I want the county to step up within our authority and do what we can. Now, sometimes it's hard with the way our district attorney's office interprets some of the statutes. I oftentimes disagree with. And oftentimes when it comes to our social services department, I want to do all these cool programs and I want to get our folks out into the community. And sometimes the DA's office will say, we don't think you have the authority to do that. So that's an example.
Explain what role. So is the DA's office, are they contracted to be the legal representation of the county, or is that how it's structured? That
good question.
County government, the district attorney's office is just the legal authority.
Yes, it is in statute that the district attorney's office serves as counsel for the Board of County Commissioners. So the DA is not my personal attorney, and he and his staff, he and his staff cannot advise me based on my personal liability or my personal choices. What the DA's office does is they counsel the Board of Commissioners. And so when we go into executive session during board meetings, a member of the DA's office comes in there with us and is our legal counsel. We do have a contract with the DA's office that we renew every year that defines that relationship between the Board of County Commissioners and the district attorney's office. We do pay them. Now, it is way less than if we were to go out and hire private counsel to represent us. I mean, it's probably less than half of what we would pay private counsel. Now, I have had a lot of people express concern to me that they feel like it's just too big of a conflict to have the DA's office representing the Board of County Commissioners. Every now and then the DA's office does conflict out. So, for example, when it comes to the jail, if the county is involved in litigation because of a death of an inmate, a death of a detainee, we are defending the county and we need legal representation to do that. Sometimes the DA's office will conflict out because the DA's office will charge those detention officers they'll charge them criminally or civilly. Typically it's criminally, I think. And so the DA's office will conflict out. They can't represent the county and the commissioners while they're also prosecuting the detention officers. So that happens every now and then where we will have to go pay for outside counsel. But for the most part, the DA's office represents the county. If I want to, like, for example, helping with the winter shelter, if I really want to get an answer from the DA's office on our authority and what we can and can't do, I can submit an official request to the DA's office. It's just a form that we fill out, and you cite the statute that you think it references. You talk about the issue, and then you ask the question, what is our authority in this situation? And the DA's office will take a couple days or a week, and then they'll submit back a written response as to what we can and cannot do. We don't have to do that. It's up to you as a commissioner to decide, do I want a legal opinion on if I can pursue this program or pursue spending this money? Sometimes the other two, and even me, if an item comes up on an agenda, sometimes one of us will say, has the DA's office approved this? Or has the DA's office looked at this? And oftentimes on the agenda, it will say approved by so-and-so in the district attorney's office. And it's typically not David Prater. It's typically someone in his civil office. It's usually a woman named Erin Etherington or Gretchen.
Okay.
What is Gretchen's last name? But we're getting a new attorney in January, a new district attorney in January. Yeah. And so that whole office could change. We could have a new chief of civil. We could have new district ADAs advising the commissioners.
So I'm glad you, and I wanted to ask that question intentionally. So when we're voting, we're looking at the big picture. It's like, yeah, I voted for this particular person, but if you understand that the relationships or the impact that who you're voting for may have on another area impacts an effort. So if, me being passionate about the growth and the number of Black-owned businesses. So I look at, what are our candidates doing? What's their track record in supporting our Black-owned businesses and issues and topics that will help progress the community. I have to look at what has the current commissioner done, what is the voting representation or history of the DA's office if something goes to that office, what does that impact on city council, et cetera. And so I wanted to point that out. So when people think about when they go to the polls, they're looking at the big picture and not just this silo of my vote, because one can impact the other. So you talked about the winter. Let's talk about this heat real quick.
Because we living in the present.
Right. We're living today, and it's raining right now. Okay, it's going to rain. It rained where I am for about like 5 minutes, and it moves on. Here comes 2 minutes.
Okay.
I've gotten a lot of calls from food truck operators. Especially if they are like our barbecue food trucks. If you'll notice, you may not see as many because if it's 110 outside, then it's probably 140 plus inside. So it becomes a safety and occupational hazard. Has your office received any, not just with food trucks, but just with businesses in general, on the impact that the heat, and we talk about COVID, we talk about the winter, but have there been any calls about the concerns for businesses needing support because of the impact of heat on their business, whether it's the small business or whether it's contract opportunities or people that can't work on bids they've gotten? Have you got any calls from that, and how has the county responded?
I don't think we've gotten any calls, but your question makes me think, does the Department of Labor or maybe even OSHA regulate temperatures that you're allowed to work in?
Right.
Like, as a boss, should I force my employees to work in an environment that is 100 degrees?
Right.
Now, our road crews, when they are out on projects, if it is really, really hot, we make them take breaks. We make sure that they go sit in air conditioning during lunch. We really keep an eye on them. And if anyone is showing any signs of heat exhaustion or confusion, we send them home.
You send them home? Go fall out at home. I thought you were gonna say at least go get them checked out or something.
We'll send them home, and actually, we have sent a couple folks to what are those called? Not like
a clinic.
The Oklahoma ER up on. We've sent a couple people to Oklahoma ER up on up north. We have sent some people to get checked out. Thank you for saying that.
Like, are you hot? Just go home. You know, like old school folks say we was growing up. Hey, you're not feeling good? Drink some water. Go sit down.
Yeah.
So just to wrap up this in terms of, so if I'm a business owner and I'm looking for an opportunity for whether it's contract work or bids, is there a place on the Oklahoma County's website that I can go to search for contract or bidding opportunities?
Yes, let me look. Let me make sure I'm telling you the right thing, because yes, if you are a small business or a potential contractor and you want to be made aware of opportunities with Oklahoma County, you just need to get on our regular distribution list. Okay. We take paper bids and online bids, which accepting the online bids is new. We're really coming up into the 21st century.
She lit up when she said that. Listen to her. We did something, y'all.
When I first got here, I was like, we only accept paper bids. Like, people have to come to the courthouse and hand in their bid. Okay. Let me make sure.
There's other businesses out here still doing that too.
Yeah. Audit
funny.
Information bidding.
While you all are looking. What'd you say, Apollo?
I think it's to the purchasing department.
Yeah, and when you're on our main website is oklahomacounty.org. Don't type in OK County because it won't take you there. oklahomacounty.org, and you can click on, let's see. Oh no. Under departments, under departments, you can click on purchasing and vendor registration.
And so I encourage anyone that's listening, if you have a business in Oklahoma County, if you're doing business in Oklahoma County, if you know someone doing business in Oklahoma County or wants to do business in Oklahoma County, please register your business with the county. My company has registered. We do receive regular bid updates. And to that point, we talk about sometimes what's missed is understanding how much more revenue you can make for your business by working business to business. Because you're going to go through so many consumers. There's not enough consumers at times, but there's always some type of county, state, city work available if that's your business does. So I'm actually going to put the link in the chat.
Oh, good.
So if y'all are looking for those opportunities, please register. They do receive them on a regular. You'll get regular updates, and if you have questions, they are very helpful. And they will answer questions that you have in the RFP process.
And people can do the same with Oklahoma City or Midwest City, Edmond, Guthrie. You can get on multiple distribution lists for local governments.
Okay.
It's this type of information that's so valuable. Nobody knows to even ask for it. And this also contributes to helping to resurge that trust, right? Like, I really know that you can help me. You've given me all these different types of resources. I wanted to circle back real quick, though, just to show some similarities in what you do and what happens in the state legislature. So for any piece of legislation, ask if it's already in the statute, right? Are we amending statute? Are we we're trying to mimic what's already there, wasting our time, all of that things. We have all these people in place to help us, our legislators, make sure that they're doing something that makes sense for the people. One of the things, though, that you said, I wanted to say that this is the same thing across the board. Anytime there's a piece of legislation that requires funding through the state government, the first thing is asked, is there fiscal, FISCAL, impact? Okay. It's important, and the people don't know that, because what we're talking about is how much money is this going to cost the people, maybe potentially. And so when you were talking about asking the DA's office for all of these different things, I see how people feel like, what in the world? Don't you know what to do? Can't you just make this decision? But it's complex, but we need some checks and balances.
So many state statutes.
We absolutely do. Yeah. And so when you were talking about that relationship, I was like, okay, in layman's terms, everybody's had a job of some sort where they've had to talk to HR. HR is always the enemy for some reason, and I take offense to that. However, HR is a necessary entity within organizations. They serve both the people who work there, the employee, and the employer, to help the employer not have frivolous lawsuits, period, and also to help the employee to feel wanted, worthy, all of those different things. So I just want to point that out for whoever's like, really, I didn't know they had to go through that, or maybe I need a little bit different type of example. I think that everybody can understand that one person who does the hiring, you got to go to them for everything. And then you realize they too are talking for the very people that you're mad at.
Yes.
So that's what that reminded me of when you described it. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate you saying it that way, because it made me think about it.
And I don't know anyone who knows all the statutes or knows all the statutes that govern county government.
Oh my God.
I mean, for those of you who are attorneys, like the Oklahoma Constitution and its state statutes is like books this thick, like book upon book upon book upon book. And I remember when we got our CARES money, our COVID money back in 2020, and we asked Erin in the DA's office, we said, could you look through the statutes and help us figure out ways we can spend this money legally? And she goes, literally, this is what she said, I'm not going to do that. She goes, just scan the state statutes. She goes, I'm not going to do that. That would take me a whole year to do.
Yes.
So
it's quite intense when you look them up online even. And it gives you an opportunity to query. You can put what you're searching for, but it's still going to make you have to search a little bit more. So I respect that person for saying, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So let's dig into, we have a runoff coming up on the 23rd. So we're in 19 days.
Oh my gosh.
Right. And so many of you who have, so every January, if you don't know voters, you can submit an application to receive your absentee ballot. I'm an absentee ballot fan. Let's get it done out the way. My co-host likes to go in person.
Yes,
I respect that. But
I
guess
do
what?
too.
It's 110 degrees outside. I'd rather put a stamp on it and put it in the mail.
And ask me to notarize it. Yeah,
absolutely.
There you
go. Hey, that's your obligation as my friend. So now digging into the election. Is there anything that you learned from this current term that, not so much that maybe you would not scrap, but is there something that you would do different now that you've had going through your first full term? Wait, this is the first full term? This is the first full term?
Yeah. So I'm in my 4th year, which is the end of my first term.
Okay. Man, it seems longer than seems much longer than that.
Been in there forever.
What would you say is something that now you have 4 years under your belt? What is something that you've learned that you would say, you know what? Because you don't know everything going into a role like that.
Right.
Sometimes you have to just get in there and figure it out. But what would you say? I experienced this, And this is what I learned that I would want to do different to restore trust in the constituents of District 1?
So before I became county commissioner, I worked for the Oklahoma City County Health Department, and I managed all of our community partnerships. And I oversaw our wellness coalition. I put together Open Streets, if you all remember Open Streets OKC. I helped launch our mobile market, our mobile grocery store. So I was out in the community a lot and had what I felt like a decent network of relationships.
Mm-hmm.
When I got into
the mobile market that's off 63rd?
So it's a little old box truck that is wrapped with the fruit and vegetables.
Yeah, I see that in Capitol View a lot.
Yeah, so that was my baby. I got that going.
We learning stuff.
Did not know that.
And we launched it, and I helped work it maybe 3 or 4 Saturdays, and then I got elected and had to leave. And so it's really taken off since I left. So I thought I had a decent network of relationships in the community, specifically nonprofit and healthcare. And when I got into this role, I realized how much my network and my relationships needed to grow so that I could do my job more effectively. And my network now of who I call on for help or who I call on to work with or to ask questions has like tripled. And I still feel like I don't know enough people and I don't have enough people to call on. So that's something that I have learned is the importance of relationships in the community, whether it's business owners, regular constituents, nonprofits, private businesses, economic development organizations, the federal government, having relationships with those agencies. So that is something I'm really going to focus on in my next term, is expanding that network of relationships to help me get my job done better and to serve people better.
And so, I don't want people to take that as that you didn't have enough relationship.
Right.
I don't want to take that way, because
thank you.
Sometimes people listen and they misinterpret or they regurgitate in a way that tries to make themselves look favorable. So I want to give you your flowers in the fact that you are a relationship-driven person. So, and being that you are driven by relationships, so in that vein, in constantly growing your network, how has that helped you be a more effective commissioner now? How do you feel like that's helped you now?
The more people I'm in contact with and the more experiences I hear from other people, I think the better decisions I make. If you're in a vacuum and you are about to vote on something that might be a little controversial and you haven't listened to enough people, you might vote a certain way and then hear a story the next day and think, oh my gosh, if I had known that, I wouldn't have voted that way.
Perfect.
And
that vacuum statement is perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to, especially for commissioners, we have a meeting every other Monday. So every other week I have to do my homework. And when I see stuff pop up on that agenda, I have to call some folks and meet with my staff and figure out how am I going to vote on this. And it's so easy to just show up to the meeting, read the item, and make an initial opinion and vote on it.
So that's so important. I'm glad you said it that way. And I keep on making these relations. I want people to see the line between county commissioner and what state legislators do. Even though there's many pieces of legislation, like in the Senate, there might be 1,000 pieces of legislation that come out in one session. And I'm not saying that every member might read all of that, but the point that you made that is so pivotal is that when you read what's coming on the agenda and you reach out to different agencies, different organizations that this impacts or who has done work in that particular area, they help you to see different perspectives. All of them are going to say, yes, that's great. Please vote yes on it. You're going to have the ones that you work with the most to say, please support this. And then you're going to have people who haven't ever said anything to you. And it'll be more of them that say, this is awful for us. And let me tell you why. And this is what's so, what people miss when we're talking about electeds, right? first, we're human beings, we're people before we get into these positions. And then all of a sudden I'm elected. You've given me your confidence, you elect me, and then I am some sort of, I don't know, all be all. I don't want to say what it is.
Yeah.
So to take that away and to really put the human perspective on that, and people to give a person in a position some sort of grace, but understand how to hold them accountable. You just spelled it out. When I say hold electeds accountable, these are the things that I'm talking about. Asking questions. You said, without saying it, I could look at this piece of legislation, I'm used to saying that, whatever comes before me, and go ahead and make my own decision based on my own individual biases, my own individual choices. And I'll call you and say, now, Commissioner Blumert, that ain't for me. You didn't vote for me. You know what I mean? And it's that part that people should be able to say, listen, you 300,000 people you represent now here. You're not barely pleasing to. So I appreciate your response, and I had to make it a little bit more dramatic, but I wanted people to know that this is the same thing that other electeds are experiencing, and they should be able to ask, as a voter, as a citizen, listen, I know this piece of legislation came up. Did you know about it before it came? Or did you ask the community what they thought about it? Or did you just go in here and say, okay, this is what I want? My family said yes.
Yeah. And it's impossible to talk to everyone that a piece of legislation or a program might affect.
Right.
But you do need to do your due diligence to talk to the folks that you can get to before you vote on it.
Mind you, they're going to contact whoever it is if it's that serious of a matter. And the funny part is that you'll have some pieces that come before you that hardly anybody say anything to you about. But then when it's that hot topic, I know that everybody is in the inboxes, on the phones, wanting meetings,
Twitter,
everything. So, and that's not even fair, but that's what it is. Part of it.
So we have about 3 minutes left, and so I just have a couple more thoughts, and then we'll wrap up, because I know you have to get back on the campaign trail. And how many doors have you knocked so far?
So, in 2018, I personally knocked, so I know this was 4 years ago, I personally knocked 14,000 doors.
Okay.
In 2022, is that the year we're in, 2022? What we have done to give me a little more time to raise money and to go be out in the community speaking at events, I knock on doors typically on the weekends, Saturday nights, sometimes Sunday nights. And then we have a team of about 15 people that we pay $1 per door. And at the beginning of the week, we set a goal of how many doors we want to get done that week. And so we're averaging about 3,000 to 4,000 doors a week right now with and it's mostly young people, 20, 25.
I got one yesterday.
Oh, good. I love these kids. They're so much fun. They're so excited to campaign, and they have done an incredible job. And so I will go out and check on them. Like Sunday night, we went out and met up with one of them and out in Spencer and kind of checked on her. And then we went and knocked some doors. So this year I'm not knocking the thousands and thousands that I did 4 years ago, but I have people helping me this time, which is what I need.
Yeah, but you said about 3,000 doors a week.
Our team is doing about 3,000. This week we might hit 4,000.
I mean, but that is, that shows a commitment when you have a team of people and you're knocking on doors. And what we see often is that we don't see candidates knocking on doors. We see candidates that once they're elected, they rely on, reputation, word of mouth, social media, press releases, live, Facebook, the lack of connection with people, because just like in business, people buy from people that they know. It's through relationship. So even if I don't know enough about you personally, if I haven't dug deep enough, it means something when you go to someone's door and you say, hey, I don't really know this person, but they knocked on my door. They came to see me. And that goes a long way. And I'm just knowing you, I did not expect anything different, but the fact that you've been persistent. And for me, as a person who has voted for you, is voting for you, my ballot's in the mail already. is that I know that's what I'm going to get. And the consistency, the inclusiveness, the diversity in thought, those things matter to me because that person is going to ask the right questions and do the right thing when they're wherever they are representing District 1. So 2 questions. One, what is something about you that people don't know? Not work related. What is something that you like to do that people don't know about? Not Oklahoma County Commissioner Carrie Blumert of District 1, but what does Carrie like to do?
Oh, when I have time, I love reading. I'm big on Goodreads. If you all don't know what Goodreads is, it's kind of like Facebook, but just for books.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I love reading. I have a huge sweet tooth. I love candy, ice cream, donuts, cookies. Like it's bad.
I know what I'm bringing you.
And I keep candy in my office. I give candy to my campaign, my door knockers. Like I like sugar. What else do people not know about me? I was not born in Oklahoma. I was actually born in Anchorage, Alaska.
Okay.
And my family moved here when I was 3. So I really don't remember a lot of Alaska. We moved to Ponca City. We lived in Ponca City for about 10 years. And then we moved to Bartlesville. And my parents still live in Bartlesville. That's where I graduated high school. That's home to me is Bartlesville. But I moved to Oklahoma City about 12 years ago to go to the OU Health Science Center and didn't really know where I was going to go after that. And ended up staying in Oklahoma City and have been here ever since. And I love it. I don't have any plans to leave because I really like the direction our city is going in. So it's a cool time to be an elected official right now in Oklahoma City because of the momentum of what's going on and it's just a cool time.
Okay. And Tanasha, I'm gonna let because you got to do your Auntie TT segment before we go.
I just don't. We could close it out with Commissioner Blumert. This is a special session. I don't know.
No, because you got to do your Auntie TT segment. That's what we do. Okay. Why should you get 4 more years?
Ooh. I believe I should get 4 more years because the amount of potential I see in our community and with a new detention center that actually focuses on treatment and rehabilitation, the MAPS projects that are coming online, our ability to serve schools and do projects on public school property. There is just so much that is happening that is about to get better and bigger that I want to be a part of, and I want to continue leading this charge. And I feel like I have just touched the tip of the iceberg on figuring out how to best serve my constituents and how to get to know them and how to show up for them. I feel like I'm just getting started. And to only serve 4 years feels like it just does not feel like enough time to really make the impact that I want to make. So running for a second term was not even a question for me. I knew I wanted to keep serving, and I knew that I could continue figuring out how this job works and the resources that I have access to and figuring out how to get those out into the community. So.
Love it.
Wonderful response. Look at it. She said, I am sticking with this work. People, let me stick with this work. Let me make sure that it comes through. I like
so
it.
If you all want any more information about Oklahoma, let's taco. Looking not so taco. So you want any more information about Oklahoma County Commissioner Carrie Blumert, you can visit our website. It's on the screen. It's important that you do your research. It's important. And now you do have an opponent for the runoff on the 23rd. It's important that you look at both opponents' platforms and what they've done in their history, even if they have things that they've done previously is a good indicator, but also being able to tangibly look and see what that person running for office is doing now. So you can definitely visit Commissioner Blumert's website. You see on the screen at carrieblumert.com. If you want more information, look there, look at the platform to make an educated and informed decision on who represents you for Oklahoma County District 1. Whether you live in District 1 or not, knowing that who represents you in Oklahoma County is definitely important. So please visit our website and make an educated vote for the runoff for August 23rd. So that way we will see her in November to continue her work that she's done in these 4 years since she's been in County Commissioner. So we can always close the segment. Let's close the podcast with our Auntie TT. So look, I gotta say this every episode. I don't want y'all to get in trouble. If you ever see Tanasha, not Tanisha, see Tanasha out in these streets, don't call her Auntie TT because she's smiling right now. She might not be smiling when it's just something that we do. So you gotta get more. She gotta warm up to you before you let her call her Auntie TT. Just giving y'all that warning. So it takes us out on a positive note. So Auntie TT, there you go.
Really?
Yep.
Is this how it's going?
What do you mean?
Oh, he forgot. Okay, good. Okay, y'all. Listen.
Pick up the pieces.
Listen.
Pick up the pieces.
I didn't think he would remember.
No, look, I'm gonna do that every time before your parts. You gotta know that.
I always be thinking
we're going to
come up with
song.
a different
I promise
one.
you, we're going to get a segment song.
Really today, after hearing all of this great information, the positive point that I have to give, it's not poetic, but it's real. Relationships mean something. You have an opportunity as a citizen within your community to build relationships with people who's asking you for your vote, and also just to understand and know who you live around. It's important. So just a positive impact. Give a smile, give a hello, a nod, or something to somebody that you don't know, and somebody that you don't typically even talk to. It'll help you to step out a little bit further and start building relationships. Relationship starts with a smile or hello sometimes. That's just what it is. So I hope from all of the good information that was given today that this positive point at the end helps somebody to give a smile, a hello, and start a conversation, start building those relationships. Because we deserve it, good people. All right, that's what I got.
So thank you all for joining us for this podcast today. If you have not done so, please go to OklahomaBlackPAC.com. You'll see in the ticker sign down below to subscribe for updates. And feel free to give us a donation as we're continuing to build on our framework and our network to grow our impact across the state. If you have any questions for Oklahoma County Commissioner Blumert, you can visit her website. And I also have that down the screen. So you can visit our website for more information. Thank you, Commissioner Blumert, for joining us on this Thursday morning and taking some time away.
Fun.
Yeah, so we definitely enjoyed it. It was insightful for me, and hopefully it was insightful for our visitors. So this podcast will be re-aired and replayed on our YouTube channel and on social media. So anyone's able to go back and take a look at it if they have any questions or look at things. But thank y'all for watching us. Thank y'all for tuning in. Until next time, we will see y'all later.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.